All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's up, Monterey, Car Week, motorcycle enthusiast. Today we are with the one and only, the legend, McCall. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
It's a beautiful day, definitely. It's a great day to be out there, especially on Highway 68, a few minutes away from Laguna Seca. Thanks for having us here.
Absolutely. And finally, the rain looks like it's behind us. And it's making for a wonderful spring. I just went for a ride on Sunday, and the flowers are out, the roads are dry. It's a great time to be back on a motorcycle.
Totally, totally. So what do you ride? What's your
Well,
motorcycle?
for a daily motorcycle, and I don't ride every day, but for my most common motorcycle, I ride a GS BMW Adventure, a 1250 Adventure. It's a perfect bike for me. I'm kind of tall, so I fit really
I'm
well
gonna
on
say
it.
That's not gonna be my department
Yeah,
there.
it's absolutely it's the Swiss Army knife of motorcycles. They do everything. I've ridden sport bikes. I've got a lot of them. I love old vintage bikes, but as far as like a dependable motorcycle, you can just get on and actually go to the grocery store if you need to because it's got
Yes,
boxes.
exactly,
It's comfortable. You can
exactly.
go 400
What's the
miles.
furthest spot you've went through it?
You know, I'm not big on huge, long
Long
rides, but I
distance.
go to Ojai with my wife. We'll go up to Napa. She doesn't mind riding the back, and she rides motorcycles as well. But she said being on the back of a GS is really a comfortable experience as well. So we try to keep it kind of regional. A few hundred miles is plenty.
That's good. Well, we got the best coastline here.
We
You don't
do.
have to go far, far away.
We do. Absolutely.
Totally, totally. Gordon, and that's our first time into your. I'm gonna call it a huge contemporary barn here. So tell us a little bit more. How did it all started? We talked a little bit off camera earlier, but give the viewers a little bit more. Like, how did it start? What do you have here? Who's your neighbors? What's
Sure.
going on in this majestic place?
Well, so this is the Monterey Motorsport Park that we developed a few years ago. A group of partners and myself just realized there's a need on the Monterey Peninsula for a place to put your stuff. You're lucky if you get a two-car garage. I don't care where you buy your house, even up at the preserve. It's unusual to have anything more than a two-car garage. So what do you do if you're a car person or a bike person, or you've got a boat, or something extra that doesn't fit at home? So we thought, let's look into that. The more I talked to my friends, the more I realized there's a great need here. So we built 96,000 square feet, 80 units, sold out rapidly. And that's another key factor about this development is you own your own space. You don't.
So everything is sold out. Are
Yep.
there anybody leasing space, or everything got sold?
Everything got sold. There's been a couple that were bought as investments that are being
Okay.
leased, but for the most part, they're owner occupied. And we use them also. I'm a great example of using it as a daily office space. They all have mezzanines, which is what we're sitting in right now. I've got the CEO of Ford Motor Company here as a good friend who's running, during the shutdown, was running the Ford Motor Company from here. There's movie producers, there's car collectors, there's MotoGP world champions here. There's a little bit of everything. It's
I love that. I love that. Especially, about the Ford CEO being here. I mean, this is like a very American, so a big
totally,
company
totally.
being managed from beautiful,
Yeah,
Monterey County.
exactly.
This is definitely a special place.
Well, there was a niche for it. There really was a good, safe place with great security that you can be comfortable with your surroundings. Monterey Peninsula is pretty darn safe to begin with, but we kind of went to extra levels here.
It did.
In the Quail Motorcycle Gathering, I think one of our favorite things about that event, we're into our 13th year now, under the amazing direction of the Peninsula Signature Events Group. Courtney Ferrandi does an incredible job putting that show on. I'm just the bike guy there, so I try to bring as many neat bikes as I can to the table. But the motorcycle world, to me, as an enthusiast and a rider and a collector and all that kind of stuff, reminds me of the way the vintage car world was about 20 or 30 years ago. People don't really walk around and talk about what the motorcycles are worth. That's not a forefront item. It's very seldom even brought up. Whereas the car world now, because of the internet, social media, auction results that get published on the front page of newspapers when a car sets a world record, a lot of people are obsessed with what the cars are worth. If you walk past a Ferrari GTO, I guarantee you're going to hear people talking about how much they've heard it's worth.
Yes.
When you walk past a Vincent Black Shadow motorcycle, they're not talking about what it's worth. They're talking about how amazing it must have been to ride that thing in 1952 and set a land speed record on it, that type of thing. The authenticity that exists in the collector classic motorcycle world is real. You can't fake it. You can't fake riding a motorcycle. You just can't.
You can't.
You're either into it or you're not. And I'm not saying you can fake it in the car world, but you kind of can. You know, if you can figure out the millennial anti-theft system of a manual transmission, anybody can drive a car. A motorcycle, not so much. So there's a lot of authenticity and genuineness, and we see it all at the Quail. It's really fun to see young and old alike sharing stories, sharing where their scars are from having ridden. It's inevitable. Everybody goes down at one time,
absolutely.
but we have a lot of fun with it.
What have changed, and how did we evolve in the past 13 years with the motorcycle gathering? Like, how did it
Well, you know, the
evolve?
motorcycle world is it's constantly evolving. And what we try to do every year is feature groups that are specific. You know, we've had different cafe racers, different off-road racers. This year we're featuring a particular category that's really popular right now. They call them baggers. So we've got a class called Bring On the Baggers. These are large touring motorcycles, typically Indians or Harleys, that have saddlebags. And when you go out on the open roads, you'll see a couple of groups typically of motorcyclists. They're either adventure bikes, like the KTMs, the BMW GSs, or they're baggers, they're big cruisers. Those are the kind of groups that you see together riding, doing long distance rides. So we've got a featured bagger group. And it turns out the Moto America Racing Series has a featured race group called the bagger group, which people can't believe. It's like, these things race? It's like, yeah, they do. They spend about $250,000 modifying those motorcycles and taking about 300 pounds off of them. And it turns out it's the biggest spectacle in road racing right now. They were at the high banks at Daytona, racing in the Daytona 200. You know, they were clocked at 190 miles an hour on the high banks.
Man. That's
A bagger. So, you know, as far as the evolution of our show, we try to stay relevant every year with interesting, fun classes. One of our other classes is, it's kind of a play on words, but it's Italian and single. They're single-cylinder Italian bikes.
That's catchy.
And they're very popular, you know. Actually, this one's not Italian, but that's a great example of a small displacement, single-cylinder motorcycle that, you know, in Europe, everybody had one. That's just, you either rode a scooter or you rode a little 𝗶𝗶 or a Ducati, or, you know, single-cylinder bikes were popular. So we have a lot of them coming. It's going to be fun.
Totally. So how many classes or categories are we going to have this year?
I think there's 12 altogether. We've got our standard classes, and then we have our special features. So we're also featuring muscle bikes of the 70s. These are the kind of over-horsepowered with not great brakes and chassis. So I've ridden plenty of those in my day. I'm kind of a product of the 70s, so it wasn't unusual to have a really fast motorcycle that handled really poorly and had no brakes. So
how many broken bones you have?
yeah, you know, fortunately, I've only broken a few.
Good.
Yeah, motorcycles are great. I've been riding since I was 13.
It comes in the territory. I mean, sometimes if you don't fall, it's not fun, but it's dangerous.
You got to find the limit. You know, that's why I think more parents. I wish I could see more parents kind of letting their kids go off and skin their chins, and learn what it's like, because you learn a lot. I personally almost credit everything I know how to do in life based on my first motorcycle that I bought when I was 14 years old. It was a completely unauthorized purchase. My mom was never going to allow me to buy a motorcycle, so I had to do it without her knowledge, which I did. I also had to figure out how to make that work. And, you know, I was a good kid. It's not like I was a rebel. But that bike taught me everything. It taught me how to get away with something at a young age, bend a few rules, but not get in trouble. Taught me how to fix things at an early age. And most importantly, it taught me how to ride a motorcycle. I had to teach
And Gordon,
myself.
you were born in Carmel.
Yeah, I've been here my whole life. My wife too. We're both locals, so it's been a really fun place to grow up and manage to stay here, and with various business endeavors. I love this peninsula. It's magic.
Now, the location of the motorcycle gathering. Why did you choose the Quail?
It's just such a natural. You know, the Quail. We've had a wonderfully successful car show that we've done now for 20 years. Again, under the direction of the Peninsula Signature Events Department. It's such a beautiful, you know, it's a 900-acre, incredibly beautiful place. And I've got to tell you, motorcycle people, and I'm one of them, you're not really used to such a bucolic setting for a motorcycle show. For a motorcycle show, you're usually on the indoors of an auditorium somewhere or in a park if you're lucky. But you come to the beautiful grounds of Quail Lodge. You stay at the hotel there. We have a big gala dinner that we do the night before. It's just such a welcoming, beautiful property with what I think the most important part of it is the nicest people in the world that work there that are welcoming. They're
That's very true. Everybody is doing everything with a big smile.
yeah.
And they ensure that you get more than what you asked
Yeah,
for.
yeah,
And this is a top experience.
and again, that's kind of unusual in the motorcycle world. Usually we're being told where we can't park. Whereas at Quail, it's like, can we help you? Would you like a cold water? It's an amazing place, and it's run by an amazing guy. 𝗂𝘂 𝗏 is the general manager out there. He's a passionate motoring enthusiast as well. So it's very welcoming to anybody into it.
Totally. Gordon, what's the experience for this year? I've got a few questions from some of our readers. Like, there's 2 rides. Which ride should I sign up? And I told a lot of folks, like, it might be too late, for some of the rides. But what's the 2 rides? What are they? How can we explain it very simply to the new folks?
And they're really simply distinguished. So we have a traditional ride. We've done it since the beginning. On the Friday before the Saturday show, we put 100 motorcycles together, and I lead them out on a 100-mile ride, which includes a couple of laps at Laguna Seca Raceway, which is really a lot of fun for people that haven't been on the track. Now, granted, it's not a race, but it's still parade laps on the track. And then we come back to Quail Lodge for a wonderful lunch, and then we have a gala dinner that night for about 160 people. That's a ride we've done every year. Recently, our good friends, Brian Carroll, who created a documentary called Why We Ride. It's the most popular motorcycle documentary out there. It's celebrating their 10th anniversary. They launched that documentary at our event 10 years ago. So it only made sense. They do a pediatric brain tumor fundraiser, I think, is their charitable component. They do a ride that starts in Southern California. So it's completely different. You have to be down there to start
where is
the
it? It's
ride.
in Malibu, I think? Or which one? I know they've started.
Good question. Southern California.
Southern California.
Down there. And they put together a group of riders, and they come up. Now, typically, they would do their gala off-site. And we thought, why don't you do it at Quail? We do our gala on Friday night. Why don't you do your gala Saturday night? So you don't have to be on their ride to participate in their gala, which is a wonderful fundraising dinner at Quail Lodge in the ballroom the night of the show. It's really great. And they're actually going to honor, it's really funny, every year we honor a legend of the sport. And we've had everybody. We've had all the big names in the motorcycle world: Wayne Rainey, Kenny Roberts, Eddie Lawson, Reg Pridmore. I could go down the list of, these are all AMA Hall of Fame, famous motorcycle people. And this year is no different. We're honoring a guy named 𝗏𝗏 𝗠𝗏, who's a good friend. 𝗏𝗏 𝗠𝗏 was 3-time Grand National Flat Track Series champion, as well as he won the Superbike Championship in 1987. Amazing guy. We're featuring him at our gala as well as the show itself. We're going to do a fireside chat interview on the stage with Bubba, etc. He's an amazing guy, but he's also an honored guest Saturday night. So if you can't get in on the Friday deal, just sign up for the dinner Saturday night, and you'll get an opportunity to spend the evening with Bubba as well.
Now, the galas, are those booked already? If somebody want to participate,
I think there's still slots. In both. That is a key difference between the car world and the motorcycle world. The car world, you have to make your plans way in advance. If you want to get a room on the peninsula, if you want to get a dinner reservation, if you want to get your car accepted in a show, you need to do it early.
Yep.
The motorcycle world, not so much. A little more last minute. And that's fine. It's just definitely a little more last minute. So we're able to accommodate. There's still people signing their motorcycles up for the show right now.
Excellent. So we're still taking entrance applications for that.
Entrants are still open.
Excellent.
There's still some slots for the dinner. The ride, I believe, is sold out, but the website will tell you that. So quaillodge.com.
It'll be interesting to see how the electric bikes go. I know, like, e-bikes, just on a just regular
e-bikes are
bikes.
huge. E-bikes are really interesting. I'm an avid cyclist as well. I don't have an e-bike. I'm not there yet. What I think is amazing about them is it's getting people that maybe wouldn't ride a bike to ride a bike. And I think that's good.
Of all ages.
Of all ages. So a lot of people that felt like, you know what, I just don't want to have to deal with it. It's too strenuous. I'm just not into it. I'm getting older, blah, blah, blah. They're riding e-bikes. And I think that's great because you still have to pedal on occasion. You know, it's not fully electric. And so that's a good thing. I think any excuse to get out on a bicycle and breathe the fresh air is a good thing. The motorcycle thing, you can't knock. I mean, the technology that Zero's using and Lightning and Energica and all these companies that are making electric bikes, they're great. But the range is still not there. It's not there, you know. I mean, it'll get there eventually, but I don't want to be limited to 100
this is big
miles.
limitation.
Yeah.
Big limitation. And still with cars nowadays, you still have limitation. If you don't have the supercharger, you're gonna wait
I
3
know.
hours versus 10 hours.
How many cups of coffee can you drink when you're waiting for your car to get charged up? And motorcycles, to me and a lot of the people that I know, are a representation of freedom. 90-mile range is not freedom. Just a personal opinion.
No,
You know?
I meant
I
to
do
that.
admire the technology, though. 100% torque at 0 RPM is pretty impressive. They get up and go. But I don't want to be out there in the middle of nowhere with the
No,
needle down
speaking
low.
of electric bikes or electric, I've seen last year few electric.
Yeah.
Do you think there'll be more this year?
Hard to say. You know, it's the consumer is the person that ultimately answers that question. You know, are people buying them as a fad? Or are they buying them because of the tax credit? Are they buying them because they're really cool? They're bringing new people to the market. There's no doubt about it. You know, for the longest time, the biggest, fastest growing sector in the motorcycle arena was with female buyers. And you saw a lot of the seat heights on motorcycles. Ducati was very famous for this. They were lowering their seat heights down to 31 inches so that just realistically they fit, typical female build better. Smart move because, women riders are great riders, and it's wonderful to open that up and not just have it be a guy thing. As far as electrification, though, I don't know. I don't keep up on the statistics in that world. I don't want to say I'm not interested, but I'm kind of not interested. So we'll see. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Now, coming back to the motorcycle gathering this year, it's going to be on May 6th,
May 6th.
Saturday.
Yep.
From 10 to 4.
Yep.
What would you give the first timers tips when they come there, what to look for, and how to really enjoy it?
Well, hopefully the sun will be shining. It makes a big difference, but it's a rain or shine event. So, sometimes you might have to layer and be prepared for a little chill. It usually goes away quickly. I always suggest that people make the rounds completely to start with. You get there in the morning. If you're on a motorcycle, we have gear checks, so you can check your helmet and your riding gear, and walk the field. There's over 200 motorcycles to look at there, and that's a lot of motorcycles to look at. But before you start engaging in conversations with owners, just go look at everything, because I guarantee you're going to see motorcycles that you didn't know existed. Happens to me every year. It really does. Even though I know every bike that's coming into the show, I'll see something in person like, I have never seen that type of motorcycle before. That's fun. So walk the field, get a general feel of the layout. Around noontime, we start doing some interviews with key motorcycle industry people on the stage, which is kind of fun. We've got a couple of great book signings going on. Chris Carter just put out a book, huge, quintessential book on the history of flat track racing. Chris is going to be there. 𝗶𝗶 𝗠cie𝗿𝗰 will be signing the book. I just learned today from my good friend Wayne Rainey, who's got a place from us here, that Eddie Lawson looks like Eddie's coming to the event as well. Eddie's a 4-time world champion. Yeah. He's bringing a couple of bikes. These guys are there. They're just there. Mert Lawwell, famous motorcycle people, and they're just there as they're one of us. So walk the field and see everything. Check out all the different sponsors that are there, promoting their wares. Yamaha is bringing a collection of motocross bikes, world championship motocross bikes, that'll be there on display. You get to see stuff that's in museums, So get a lay of the land, look at the bikes, then maybe get a bite to eat. We've got a bunch of food trucks that'll be there with all kinds of different available foods. And then in the afternoon, we do a fairly extensive awards process, which a lot of people like to watch they like to see who won what. There's that. Or if you want to opt out of that and just keep walking the field and start talking to some of the owners, because the stories behind these motorcycles are amazing. They really are. You start talking to somebody and you find out it was their father's motorcycle, or it was their grandfather's motorcycle, or they stole it when they were 16 and they bought it back on, Craigslist or whatever. There's just amazing stories that go with the bikes.
What about the VIP experience? There is a hospitality a package.
Yeah.
Can you
So
tell us a little bit more
yeah,
about
so
that?
that's a catered event, and so all the food is included in that ticket. So it's a little bit more of a VIP experience, which again is usually not available with a motorcycle event. So I believe that is close to being sold out or sold out at this point. Those are the tickets that usually seem to go first. But that's a little bit different experience. There really isn't a bad ticket to the event. I mean, just getting there in itself, there's just so much to see and so much to do.
And there's no problem with parking at all.
No, no, that's what's great. We put all the participant bikes are obviously shown on the driving range, which is a beautiful setting. And then the guests that arrive, we put all of those motorcycles on the street that are adjacent to this driving range. So that's a show in itself.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
So there's like two parts of the show: as
Yeah.
you're going in, as you're leaving, and while you are inside in the Quail
Yeah, it's
premises.
amazing. Really
That's
amazing.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Now the judging process. If you wanna run us real quick, how does that judging work?
We have about 50 judges that join us for this event, and judging is tricky. It's a tricky component because judging often comes down to opinions, which is why I kind of step out of that arena. I don't have anything to do with the judging. We've turned that over to our dear friend Summer Hooker. It's his real name, by the way, Summer Hooker. He comes all the way out from Tennessee. He is absolutely the expert. We've got two wonderful experts that help us there. Summer Hooker is our chief class judge, or chief judge overall. Alan Siekman is the co-chief. They assemble this group of 50 judges, of which not every motorcycle there has opted in for judging. A lot of people don't care about that. I know
Okay.
personally I don't. I don't really need to be told what's right or wrong with a motorcycle I'm on, but there are people that really want to know, like, where does this bike stand? How does it rate against my peers? So Summer puts these judging teams together, and they work off of a judging sheet, and they evaluate each bike that's being judged. Then we have an awards process. Now, something I started from day one, which is a little unusual, is most motorcycle shows have a first, second, and third in each class. I eliminated the third place position because I've got to tell you, I haven't heard anybody ever in my life that brags about getting third place in anything.
That's a good move.
Shooting for the bronze. I just haven't heard that expression. So
I'm number 3.
yeah, yay for number 3. So we do first and second in each class, and then we have a handful of special awards, and then we have a best of show winner, which runs. We also have a Spirit of the Quail award, which is similar to best of show, but these are all coveted awards. They go with the bike, and they stay with the bike forever. Our MC is a gentleman named 𝗶𝗶 𝗠𝗏 Paul is he's also known as the Vintagent. He has an amazingly popular website or blog called The Vintagent. He is hands down, he's an old friend, but Paul is one of these guys that is one of the most knowledgeable motorcycle experts I've ever known in my life. He's a walking encyclopedia for motorcycles. As a matter of fact, there's another book that's being made available that just was put out by Taschen. It's just out now. It's a massive coffee table book. I've got one. They just sent it to me because it turns out I was interviewed for the book. I didn't realize this was part of the deal. I just kind of helped. It's the quintessential. It's a 2-book set of the most important motorcycles in the history of motorcycles. And Paul is part of that book as well. We're honored to have Paul be our MC. He's amazing. He's really funny on top of it, so he adds a little humor. You got to have humor in the motorcycle world.
You have to. And you said earlier, with having the event in a nice field, in a great settings, the roughness or the thought of, the motorcycle world being too rough, there's a little soft side to it.
There is. You know who nailed that soft side? It's an amazing ad campaign that I still think about often. Honda in the 60s came out with an ad campaign, and it said, "We meet the nicest people in a Honda." And their whole campaign was geared around that. And the main reason was, up until that point, people thought of motorcycles and they thought of the Hells Angels.
True.
They thought of gangs and bad things happening. Honda comes out with this, you meet the nicest people on a Honda, and guess what? You do. There's a lot of friendly people in the motorcycle world.
With events like the motorcycle gathering and most of the events during Car Week, it's the friends that you make along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also an experience by itself.
Yeah.
In addition to, seeing the best of the best there. I know I've made a lot of friends, and you sure have met a lot of new friends and reconnected with old friends.
Yep.
And this is something I'll definitely give credit, to the Quail
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and to the motorsports team.
Yep.
You guys have done a wonderful job bringing the best of the best. And you said earlier, just go around, and during the event, talk to people because you don't know who's who. First of all, and everybody is friendly.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
try, if somebody is in the middle of interview, not to to cut someone and ask them some questions.
Yeah. Now that I don't have the Jet Center hat on and more concentrated on the motorcycle show at Quail and the motorsports gathering, I have to admit, creating that motorsports gathering 20 years ago, I didn't realize it was going to turn into what it is today. I had an idea, but I didn't know it was going to be like the premier. I mean, it's amazing what the Peninsula Hotel parent company has done with that, and specifically the Peninsula Signature Events Department. They work year round on not only those two events, but they have a rally that they do. It's, there's other things that they do, right? Under the direction of 𝗤𝘂𝗶𝗶, who's been there forever. She's an amazing leader. The behind the scenes work that goes on year round is the part that I wish everybody knew about. There is a ton of clerical, logistical, it's a lot of work. It's a big production. There's a lot of moving parts, and that department works on it every work day of the week throughout the year. There's a lot of planning. I mean, I feel lucky because I get to throw the ideas out there and make connections with companies and friends and so forth, various luminaries in the car and motorcycle world. They're the ones that do all the heavy lifting, all the hard work. And so I think if people knew how much work, that's why you don't see more events, because it actually came up sadly when Doug passed away. I got a lot of phone calls. How come you don't just take over the Ocean Avenue show? It's like, people think throwing a little car show together is a piece of cake. It's not. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of logistics. And I can't say enough for that Peninsula Signature Events Department at Quail. They're amazing. They really are. It's hard work. It's thankless. They're behind the scenes. I thank them every week.
Unknown soldiers, a lot of them.
Yeah, and they're there every week just powering through, and, conference calls and site meetings. And
it's a year-long prep. I know
It
when
is.
I was more involved with the Pebble Beach concours, we've built back then the judging system,
Oh, yeah.
automation, the first e-commerce for the concours.
Yep.
There's no rest.
No.
The day,
No.
even when by the time the awards are given, the press releases are being written to be out.
Yeah.
In the same midnight, they're preparing for the next year.
Yeah.
It's just
Nonstop.
an amazing experience.
It's nonstop.
So, hat off for all of those crews.
I can relate to that. Well, I was with the Pebble Beach Concours for 28 years. I started as a volunteer when I was going to Carmel High School, and started helping a friend, 𝗏𝗏, who is now the chief judge there. I helped with laying the field out as a low-level field crew, and ended up helping design the system that's still in use today as far as staging the three cars next to each other and not telling who was first, second, or third. I decided to add a little drama to it. After 28 years, I just saw an opportunity. A friend of mine had acquired Quail Lodge. I saw an opportunity to do a different car show, one that wasn't so, and this is out of respect to Pebble Beach, quite frankly. It was a show that wasn't so geared around the judging and the pressure, because I started to notice a lot of the car owners were really uptight when it came to the judging part. A lot of those car owners, they don't know how to start their own cars. They've got handlers, and I just thought, oh, this is losing a little bit of the fun factor to me. Cars should be fun. And so hence the idea for the Quail came out of my head from that. But it's nonstop. It's nonstop work. And so if there's a story, it's just that's the story within the story is the behind the scenes that takes place. And then the volunteers that help make the day happen. And then the charities that benefit from the generosity of the events. The charitable dollars raised during that week of Car Week is amazing. Staggering, actually.
Top dollars.
Yeah, it's
for great causes.
Yeah, for great
Speaking
causes.
of causes, what with your event, which nonprofits are you supporting?
So I'm the vice chairman of the California Highway Patrol 1199 Foundation. So I'm on the board of directors there. I've been involved with that foundation for about 30 years. A lot of people don't think that law enforcement needs outside foundational help, but they do. When there's a loss of life, it's 16 months before a death benefit shows up. That's a lot of stress and strain on a household. So we're there for financial support, immediate financial support for catastrophic loss. And now, I know last year, just as an example, we gave out over $3 million in scholarships to family members of California Highway Patrol employees. So we're putting kids through college now with this foundation. So both the Quail and Motorlux raises money. Over the years, quite frankly, we raised millions at the Jet Center for that foundation. And it just feels good. It's nice to know that something good is happening outside of a big social gathering. It's nice to know that there's benefits to others that aren't here. So it's been a heartwarming experience. Yeah.
Now, for folks that are they can't make it to the motorcycle gathering or other events, how can they tell a little bit more about what's going on there? Are you guys going to stream anything?
Yeah, so our media partner, Con Media, will make sure to make available on all the social posts. There'll be a lot of footage that gets out. It manages to work its way out there every year. To me, that's always kind of a mystery because I'm not in that world. I'm kind of a face-to-face kind of guy. But we get a lot of media presence at the event, and it does get. We don't stream it live internally, but there's a lot of media outlets that are there doing that.
Beautiful. Now, speaking of participation, it's increasing. I could see more people, more and more.
Yep.
What's your expectation this year?
2,000 to 3,000 people, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe 3,500. Weather always plays a big factor in it, but that's our target. You know, unlike August, the month of May is a really lovely time. I'm not saying August isn't a lovely time to be here, but it gets a little busy. May is just a great time to come to the Monterey Peninsula. And the reason why we have our show on Saturday is we like to leave Sunday open so that families can go do something else. They can go to the aquarium, or they can, go to Cannery Row, do whatever, do some other family outing. And also give people a day. The motorcycle crowd's a little different than the car crowd. We like to give people a day to get back to work for Monday, so they're not missing a day of work. It'll be well attended, though, this year. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen, the changes in the past few years from, less motorcycles to more motorcycles, so different classes, different people. We're seeing kids. And speaking of kids, for folks that are families that are coming in, what are we offering this year?
Super family friendly. Lots of kids activities going on. Kids under 12 are free. There's a lot for kids to do there, and a lot for kids to learn. Again, grab your kids and walk around and ask questions, because motorcycle, it's funny. The motorcycle world is always been really interesting to me. It's not enjoyed in a vacuum. People don't take a motorcycle and go into their garage, close the door and lock it, and don't, and tinker on the motorcycle and don't share it with the world. That's not the way it works. The motorcycle world is all about sharing your experience, sharing your scraped knuckles and the frustration you're having trying to find a part for something that you probably end up having to make or whatever. It's not enjoyed in a vacuum. It just isn't. So, when people bring their bikes, and we certainly appreciate the people that enter bikes to be shown, they're sharing their passion with fellow enthusiasts. And along the way, they're influencing new potential enthusiasts. It's a win-win across the board. It really is.
It's a great cycle, and having families or kids there. And you spoke about yourself earlier, you had your first bike.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
14.
14.
Yep.
So that's how
I
it
still
starts.
have it, by the way.
You still have it?
Yeah.
Oh, my.
It's kind of pathetic, but
no,
yeah.
you
Honda
got a piece
90s.
of history, your own history.
69 Honda CL90. Yep.
But I think I have a very interesting question for you.
Okay.
It's a $1 million question. What's your favorite? A car or motorcycle?
Both. That's like asking what's your favorite kid. They're distinctly different and amazingly similar. And if I had to choose between the two, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I'm a car and a bike guy, which is not uncommon. And something you'll see at the motorcycle show at Quail on the 6th of May are a lot of car people that hide in the motorcycle world. Major car collectors that are walking around in jeans and t-shirt. Nobody knows who they are.
Yes.
They have a bunch of motorcycles in their garage at home, and they're just participating in something that they can just drop their guard. It's not about the Ferrari or the Maserati, they're just bike people. A lot of car guys.
Thank you very much, Gordon.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Here you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed this fireside chat with Gordon McCall, Director of Motorsports, and your host, Will 𝗂𝗂𝗏. Full episode covering Monterey Car Week will be aired in the next few weeks. Don't forget to join us at the Quail Motorcycle Gathering on Saturday, May 6th at Quail Lodge and Golf Club in Carmel, California from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our team will be there, so come and join us.